Thank you. Well, good morning. It is definitely warmer out here and feels good. So I'm so happy that we're all at least safe in our homes. That's a big important thing. Do I have any special requests for yoga stuff today in particular? Okay. I'm feeling a little stiffness in low back and hip area. So I think I'm going to start us off with some stretches to open up that area of the body. But as you know, we'll move through a variety of things today. So let's get started. I'm going to mute us, but you can unmute yourself at any time, questions, comments, or use the chat box below. I'm actually going to have us start in a child's pose today. So I know some of you are taking care of your knees. So you may use props to help support the sit bones behind you, rolled blankets behind the knee creases, or simply keep your hips more elevated. Now look, if child's pose doesn't work at all, you could always start in a seated position. You could start in Shavasana, right? So we always have options that work best for our body. As far as props are usual. So I have a blanket, a pillow, a yoga strap, yoga blocks if you have them. If you don't have the yoga block, sometimes just a nice sized book, a heavier book is good, and any other cushions. So in our child's pose, this is a way to stretch out the low back right away. If we're able to extend the arms forward to the front corners of our yoga mat, we'll get a nice opening through the front of the shoulder girdle here in the heart center. Do remember that we want our head grounded. And child's pose is also a really nice way to kind of get the mind to settle down pretty quickly. So physically making that contact with our head in the ground, helping our minds calm down, allowing the body to relax. So figure out where you want to be this morning. If you are taking additional props behind you, just rearrange them so they're as comfortable as possible. Those of us in our child's pose, knees wide, big toes touching. If you're sitting back to the sit bones, let the weight of the sit bones come down. Pull the low belly in, and then reach and extend to those fingertips to the front corner of the mat. Now for me, I can already tell that I won't be able to go into my fuller expression of child's pose yet this morning because I am that stiff and tight. So I'm going to come down on my forearms, stack my fists, and let my head relax there. And then just take a few deep breaths. And I know after a few breaths, a few minutes, those muscles will start to stretch out. And then I'll gradually be able to go further into my pose. And that's what yoga is all about. It accommodates us. We don't have to force ourselves into the yoga. The yoga is flexible and accepting, and it's changing all the time.
Joanne?
Yes.
So she says they have friends with them. That's why she's unable to attend classes.
Oh,
she's good.
She's good. Thank you,
good.
Anu.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Sure,
We can bring her into our practice mentally today. Thank you.
Yes, sure.
So we'll continue to settle in here just for another moment or two. If we do have those fingertips extending, keep reaching the index fingers to the front corners of the mat. Let the heart melt, let the head melt. Always starting with some connecting and awareness. So we'll start with the physical body and just mentally kind of moving through the whole body, figuring out the areas that feel awake and ready for our practice today. And also taking a moment to acknowledge and be aware of any areas that we might be healing or taking care of today. Continue to relax the whole body, all the little muscles around the face, through the chest and shoulders, across that low back, around the hips. Let's spread our awareness now to the rhythm of the breath. So watch how the breath moves maybe a little differently in this pose. We might feel our breath moving a little bit more into the back side of the body. On our exhales, maybe we can release a little bit more through the head, chest, and belly towards the ground. And let's try to keep the rhythm of our breath as smooth and even as possible, in and out through the nose. So mentally counting the breath is often one of the easier tools we can use to do this. So when we breathe in, we mentally count the number that we're inhaling. And when we breathe out, we try to breathe and count out the same number. We can still feel that expansion, inhaling fresh air, prana, and energy this morning. And on the exhale, letting go of any stress, worries you might be holding on to mentally, physically, and emotionally. And then let's all follow one more complete cycle of breath. And let's try to allow this breath to just be as big and expansive as it can be on both the inhalation, really filling ourselves up all the way to the brim. And on the exhalation, so that next exhale, we're going to take our time, put some effort into it, and really clean everything out. Now we can stay connected to this deep, full breath, or just let go of trying to follow and control the breath for a moment. It'll know where it wants to go. Let's come back to the body. If the hands are underneath supporting the head, you can bring your hands a little bit further out. We'll breathe in to float our head up, and then we're going to bring our whole body up. So if we need to adjust ourselves with our props, take a quick moment to do so. We'll move right into tabletop. Fingers wide, stacking our joints, knees under the hips, a little bit of space between those feet. Let's tuck our toes under here, draw the low belly to support that low back, and we're going to give our legs a big stretch from our compression in child's pose. Starting with the right leg, simply step the right foot behind you, straight from the hip. Try to lift up that thigh bone, opening and stretching open the eye of the knee. Equal weight in the hands, and pushing that heel towards the ground as much as we want to intensify that stretch. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale, right knee comes down. Hips should remain balanced. Give that left leg a big stretch, hold and breathe. So again, feel the energy of the thigh bone trying to lift up, that opening between the back of the thigh and the calf muscle behind the knee. Be mindful of where the head is in space. Try to keep it somewhat in line with the spine. Shifting that weight back through that heel. One more big breath in. And on the exhale, we'll bring the left knee down. Now keep the toes tucked or pointed, whatever feels best for the body. Some flexion extension for our back. On the inhale, we relax the belly. We lift the tailbone and we lengthen up the spine to the crown of the head, gazing forwards or upwards into cow pose. On our exhale, we're going to pull that belly in, scoop the tailbone under, draw the chin towards the chest, bring the drishti to the belly button, and round that back up to the ceiling. Come back to the breath. Let it guide you in and out of this pose. And then try to loosen up the area around the hips a little bit more so you're getting your pelvic tilts here, front to back. Really try to articulate through the whole spine, vertebra by vertebra, between those shoulder blades and the neck. Adding little side movement, shoulder to shoulder can feel quite nice. Some people like to roll a little bit through the neck. We're just allowing these two poses to flow together to help loosen things up this morning. After we balance ourselves out, let's come back to a neutral position. The core still needs to be pulling in to support the back. Equal weight in the hands. And remember, I try to press out through the first knuckle of the fingertips to distribute that weight from the wrists. Re-extend the right leg straight back from the hip. And then today we're going to squeeze the right buttock, hamstring, and backside to hover our right leg parallel to the floor. Now our right foot is actively flexing, toes pointing down to the ground. There's going to be a little bit of stability, strengthening, and balance work. Next option, add the left arm for spinal integration. So right leg, left arm, palm faces in, thumb is up. We feel a little weeble wobbly, that's normal in this pose. Keep the breath steady and even. Take one more big breath in. Maybe we can inch the leg and arm just a hair higher. Exhale, bring the knee and the hand down. The hip should remain level and balanced. Stretch that left leg out. Squeeze the whole back side of the left leg to hover the left leg parallel to the floor, toes pointing to the ground. Find your stability and strength. Extend the right arm forward. We're just holding in a static hold. Palm forward, thumb up. Hugging those muscles to the bone, squeeze to the midline. Next inhale, maybe try to lift that leg and arm a little higher. Exhale, bring the right hand and left knee down. Now we're going to go for Surya Kagasana, so it's going to look like the pose we just did, but there's going to be movement involved. So draw into that low belly, re-extend the right leg behind the body, squeeze to lift it up, parallel to the floor. Left arm reaches forward. Now this time, point the toes of the right foot and flip the left palm up to the ceiling. As we breathe in, we're going to try to add that little lift. It might be a micro lift in the arm and the leg. On the exhale, pull the right knee and left elbow under the body into a little bit of a crunchy movement. Inhale, re-extend and lift. Exhale, squeeze, pull it under. Inhale, lengthen and lift. One more. We'll meet on the inhale, reaching back out. Now keep the right leg up. Exhale the left hand back down to the ground. Sweep the right leg over and down to the ground to the left side of the yoga mat. You can come to the top of the foot or tuck your toes under beyond the ball of the foot. Then peek over the left shoulder and give your whole right side a nice big stretch. Maybe we see that left foot or your right foot back there over on the left. Inhale, head comes up, leg squeezes back up. Exhale, bring the right knee down. Let's pause for a moment, rising up on our fingertips in Hatha Bandha or strong punching fists. If your wrists need a break, take a couple cat-cows before we do the other side. The inhale takes us into our back bend. The exhale grounds us and takes us into flexion. Coming back to neutral, tabletop pose, draw the low belly in. Extend the left leg straight back from the hip. Now squeeze the left side to hover it parallel to the floor. Adding the right arm reaches forward from the shoulder. Now point the toes of the left foot, flip the right palm up to the ceiling. Inhale, try to lift the arm and the leg a little higher. Exhale, squeezes the elbow and the knee under the body. 2 more times with the breath. Inhaling to extend and lift. Exhaling to squeeze and compress. After that third round, we'll meet on the inhale when we get there. Arm and leg lifted. Exhale, right hand comes down. Sweep the left leg over to the right and down. Whether you're on the top of the foot or the toes tucked under, peek over that right shoulder, stretching the whole left side. Maybe we can bring our foot into focus. Next inhale, we'll bring the head and the leg back up to neutral. Exhale, left knee down. Same thing, fingertips, fists for wrists. Let's take a couple cat-cows. And then from here, let's inch our way towards the back of our yoga mat, toes tucked under. We're still on the tabletop, but we want some room in front of us because we are going to do a little bit of our low flow to start doing some more back extension and strengthening. So our hands will walk at least one hand's distance forward. We can always adjust that distance. Arms are forward at an angle, low belly is pulled in. On the inhale, we'll slide forward into our kneeling plank. So ideally, we're trying to form a straight line from the shoulder joint, hip joint to the knee joints, and we should be able to press into the ground, lifting our knees up and be in a full plank position. So that's one way to check our alignment. On the exhale, drop the knees, pull the belly in as we take our bow. So we're just drawing our hips back. They're not going to touch the heels. We're bowing the head towards the ground. Lift your wrists up or your palms up into Hasta Bandha if they need a break. Inhale, kneeling plank. If you want to float those knees up for a second, do so. Exhale, take a bow, knees down, palms up, big stretch. One more here. Inhaling, kneeling, maybe a little lift into full plank. Exhale, drop down and back, take your bow, give your wrists a break. Next inhale flows us back to kneeling plank. We're going to bend our elbows straight back by our rib cage and lower the whole body down to the ground through a half chaturanga dandasana. Lower to the belly, draw the chin forward, slide the hands under the shoulders, squeeze the elbows in nice and tight. Flatten out the tops of the feet. We'll keep our feet wider than our hips if we do take care of the low back, or we'll zip the feet and legs together. Inhale, breathing, squeeze the back of the body, lift the chest and the heart, gaze slightly forward. So tighten up the muscles down the back. Your glutes will also engage, Bhujangasana. On the exhale, come down, kiss the mat, tuck those toes under, tuck the tail under, pull that belly in, keeping your upper arm bones tight to the rib cage, push up. On the exhale, pull the belly in, take a bow. We're going to do that one more time. Nice slow flow. Inhale, kneeling plank. Exhale, bend those elbows back. Try to lower with as much control. Keep your head in line with the spine. Chin forward, point the toes, strong back, elbows in. Inhale, squeeze the back to lift. You're welcome to do any variation of Cobra that you like. Exhale, come back down, kiss the mat, tuck the toes and the tail, elbows squeeze in tightly, push up, inhaling. Exhale, bow it back. Now we're going to come forward one more time, but we're going to stay down on the ground for a moment. So inhale to our kneeling plank. Exhale, lower down to our Cobra pose. Point, flatten the feet, wide or together. Inhale, squeeze the back body, lift the heart, Bhujangasana. This time, slide the elbows straight forward, under the shoulders, coming into Sphinx Pose. You can stay a little lower to the ground to start. Knife the pinky edge of the hands into the ground. Now relax the back, the buttocks, and let your feet relax. So the lower half of our body should be softening. We're going to press down through our arm bones. Pull the crown of the head forward as if you're trying to drag your body forward, but the weight of the backside is going to keep us grounded. And we should feel this lifting and extension through the whole front of the body. Try to bring our drishti straight forward. Relax the buttocks and the low back. We're taking some extension here. The upper arms are supporting us. Sphinx pose, take a nice deep breath in. Next exhale, let's peek over our right shoulder again, giving our neck a little bit of a twist. Maybe try to see how far you can see. Inhale back to center. Exhale, let's peek over the left shoulder. Inhale back to center. We're going to do that one more time each side. Open the eyes nice and wide. Use your peripheral vision. Maybe you can see a little further the second time around. After you finish that one more time to the left, bring the head back to neutral. Flare the elbows out. Stack the hands one top of each other. Rest the forehead down to the ground for a moment. You can also turn your head sideways if that's more comfortable for the neck. Give your hips a little wiggle and just pause. Take a breath from our back bending. And then we're going to go right into a fun little shoulder stretch. So we were working on a little bit of shoulders this week, so we're going to do a front shoulder stretch. Now here you might want a little extra pillow, a cushion, your folded towel to support the head. I'm going to slide my meditation pillow here in front of me. I don't always use it, but sometimes I want it. It's going to be a really big stretch for the front of the shoulder. Remember, if your body signals you that it doesn't feel comfortable, don't force it, okay? We can kind of adjust our volume on how much we want here. So relax down on the ground, stretch your right arm straight up from the shoulder like an airplane wing, and start with the palm down on the ground. Take your left hand and place it back down underneath your left shoulder. The left hand is going to be our moving arm. And then we're going to just simply roll, I should say simply, onto our right side. So this is where you might want to slide something underneath the head to give it a little bit of support. It can also just kind of hover there or drop down towards the ground. So once we're on our right side, it's a little bit of a balancing act. We're getting that big stretch for our right shoulder. You may simply bend both knees a little bit. That will help with that balancing on the right side. Other stages are to bend the left knee up to the ceiling and stepping the foot behind the right leg. This is going to intensify that stretch for the shoulder, so move mindfully. A fuller expression of this is bringing the right knee up to the ceiling as well, turning the lower half of the body more into a bridge pose. I choose not to take that variation. Keep the breath flowing. If you need to release at any time, you just slowly reverse out of the pose. I'm going to give us one more option today. The left arm reaches up to the ceiling. At this point, you would flip your right palm up, the one that's on the ground, and bring your left arm back and around. And maybe, just maybe, your hands meet and you interweave those fingers back there. If it's far, far away, don't worry about it. You can just let gravity traction out that shoulder, or you can bring it back in front of the body. Wherever we are, let's take one more full breath. On the inhale, left arm comes up. Exhale, bring the left hand back down in front of the body. We're going to unroll so you can straighten the legs and come all the way back onto our bellies. Take your time, there's no hurry. Stack those hands underneath the forehead for a moment and just come into a neutral position so we can check in, see how everything feels before we move to the other side. So other side, left arm is going to extend straight up from the shoulder, palm down. Right hand placed underneath the shoulder. This is our lever that we're going to use. So we'll start to press into the right hand and roll onto our left side. Legs can be stacked, a little bit more of a balancing act. Bend the knees if that's a little bit more comfortable. Taking it a step further, bend the right knee up to the ceiling, stepping the foot behind the body. And one side might feel very different than the other. That's normal. Both knees up. If you want to try it, doesn't feel good for me. Right arm up if you want to try that. Flip the left palm up to the ceiling. Reaching that right arm around. Maybe they connect, maybe they don't. Really nice big stretch for the front of that shoulder. One more breath. Inhale, right arm up. Exhale, bring the hand back down in front of the heart. Roll on to the left side, the belly. Unwind out of the pose. Pause in a neutral position, hands under the forehead. Relax the back and the buttock. And then chin forward, hands under the shoulders, tuck the toes. Really important to engage the core at this point. So by doing that tailbone scoop, you should feel your lower abdominals want to pull away from the floor. Squeeze your elbows in and push up. Hands and knees, kneeling plank. Bring the knees right back underneath the hips. So we're stacking our joints and tabletop. And start off with a couple baby cat cows. So we just did some back bending and some bigger stretches. So let's just move in and out with the breath to loosen things up. And then we'll come back to neutral. Hands walk one hand's distance forward. If you do feel like you need to sit back in a child's pose now or anytime, please do so. Let's tuck our toes under, draw the low belly in. If we're ready, we're gonna lift up and back, Adho Lukasvanasana, downward facing dog. So going into one of our bigger inversions here, allowing the head to float between those upper arm bones. Feet are running parallel to each other. Try to find as much symmetry in those feet as you can. If you notice one foot turned in or out, try to equal them out. Equal weight in the hands, rooting down to the mound of the index finger and thumb, but simultaneously rolling those upper arm bones away from the ears, down the back. Continuing to give our legs a stretch. Let's inhale, lift our heels up as high as we can go. And then exhale, drop the right heel to the ground and bend the left knee. Feel like you're pressing that thigh bone back again to open up the back of the knee. Inhale, heels up. Exhale, left heel down, right knee bends. Sinking that left heel to the floor, big stretch for the back of the leg. Now we can continue to walk our dog for another breath or two here, or just pause in stillness. Bend the knees more deeply if that helps release the back a little bit more. One more breath. Next inhale, looks forward. Baby stepping our feet to our hands or hands to our feet. Uttanasana, forward fold. Those of us staying in the fuller version, you're still upside down. Legs are strong, belly's in. You may take a hold of opposite elbows if you'd like to ragdoll to help release the shoulders and the neck. Modifiers like me, for whatever reason, for me it's my back. Knees are bent, weight of the body is on my elbows or even the hands if we need to come up higher today. We can still release one arm at a time, but without putting as much pressure on the low back. One more breath. And today we're going to take our time to come up and do our slow roll. So let's all micro bend our knees. Taking our hands onto our thighs, turn the fingertips in. Tuck the chin to the chest, and as we inhale, press into the ground. Use the strong legs, the core, and we're going to roll up one vertebra at a time. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Once we come up to standing, squeeze your shoulders up a little bit on purpose. Exhale, let them fall back down away from the body. Turn the palms out and try to inhale even more air. So we're really just trying to get some oxygen to our brain for being upside down for a while. Big stretch here. Bring those palms to touch and exhale, hands to our heart. So we'll do a little balance, another little opening for the shoulders. Interweave all 10 fingers. Flip your palms forward. So this is our palm tree pose, just a little different variation. Parallel your feet, unlock those knees, pull up through Mula Bandha up the pelvic floor, in and up through Uddiyana Bandha below the navel center to stay connected to that strong core. On the inhale, reach your arms up. Now the palms will face up to the ceiling. We'll pull the head of the arm bones back and we'll try to lift our heels up. Now on the exhale, lower the heels back down, bend the elbows out so that the knuckles fall to the top of the head. The inhale, push your palms up, reach those heels up, big side body stretch. Exhale, try to slowly lower the heels and the knuckles to the head. Let's do 2 more today. So we're gonna lift up one more time when we get there. Inhale, arms up, heels up. Keep breathing, open the hands up, and you can add a little sway in the arms. So we're up on our tippy toes. Pull those bellies in, don't collapse here, strong core. A little bit of a challenge. Anytime we start moving around in space. Good. Super strong calves, ankles and feet. Bring everything back up to center. Take one more big breath in, see how tall we can get. Turn your palms out and slowly try to come down, where we'll pause for a moment in Tadasana. So let the shoulders kind of fall away from the ears here. Let the arms just softly float beside the body. Front body, back body, but no tension in the face or neck. And then relax for a moment. So we are going to come into Prasarita Tadasana today, our standing straddle. If you have 2 yoga blocks, that would work great. If you have a chair, a piece of furniture, or books, whatever you have around you as additional support to move in and out of the pose, please do so. So you'll want to move to face the long edge of your yoga mat. If we are using books or blocks as our additional support, we'll want them as wide as our shoulders to that long edge, or place your chair there. So I often use a chair, but we just got some new blocks. So I'm using these and see how they feel. Once we're in position, stand tall, and we'll open it up out nice and wide into our neutral stance. So extending the fingertips out from the shoulders, the feet will parallel to each other. So we want to start with the toes facing straight forward. And maybe the ankles are as wide as our wrists. Bring the hands onto the hips. This is where the movement's going to happen at our pelvis. Now turn the toes slightly in so we get this internal rotation in the thigh bones. Really important to stay connected to the strong core. We may open the heart by drawing the elbows back. Take a deep breath in. On the exhale, pour the pelvis forward. So there should be no rounding of the spine here. We want nice, strong legs. Pick up your toes if you don't feel connected. Rooting through the mound of the big toe, inner heel. Mound of the pinky toe, outer heel. Good. So some of us might only hinge forward a little bit and just using super powerful, strong legs and core to hold there. If we want to release our fingertips towards our props to the ground, you may, but don't lose that connection to the feet, the legs, and those lower locks, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha. Now we will take some time here to breathe. So again, gravity is our friend, helping traction things out. Feel a lengthening from the inner groin all the way down to the inner heel, and some action pulling up from the outer heel to the outer hip. Contracting strongly through the abdominal muscles so the back side can relax. Over time, fingertips might be able to move a little bit closer to the ground, so you might lower your blocks or even bring the fingertips to the floor. Drawing the belly towards the thighs. Those of you who are back in an inversion, you may relax the head down and look between the legs. But continue to pull your shoulder blades away from your ears. So just don't let the weight of the shoulders sink down to the ears. Let the head and neck go. Good. Let's try one more full breath here. Next inhale will bring us to our halfway lift. So we want to come up out of the pose about halfway, rising back up on our fingertips, on our props. Even micro bend the knees a little bit if you lost some of that strength in the legs. Really strong core. Now I'd like us all to have a prop of some sort right underneath the tip of the nose. So I'm moving one of my yoga blocks right underneath the tip of my nose. If it's steady enough, you might even stack 2 blocks or your props or seat of your chair. So we're going to take a twist. We'll keep the right hand down, our fingertips down. Left hand's going to come onto the left hip. On the inhale, draw your left shoulder blade back, twisting to the left. Now we'll notice that the pelvis wants to tilt a little bit. You may drop your right hip down, or you may try to keep your pelvis and low back parallel to the floor. There's 2 schools of thought there. The twist anatomically happens in the mid upper back through the vertebrae. Adding the pelvis isn't necessarily twisting further. It might seem like it because the upper body will be in a place to go a little further, but we have to be mindful on the low back. Wherever we are, you may try to extend the left arm straight up towards the ceiling, maybe gazing up to that top hand, Both feet equally weighted and grounded. Big breath in. Exhale, unwind, take your time, nice strong control. If you tilted the pelvis, bring it back to neutral. Left hand down right underneath the tip of the nose, strong legs. Right hand to hip. Inhale, pull the right shoulder blade back. Left arm puts down, straight, nice, straight and strong. Again, you can kind of adjust where the pelvis is in space. Think about that rotation through the mid, upper back, the neck, twisting to our right. If you are tilting that pelvis, you'll probably feel a little bit of inner thigh stretch. Right arm may extend up to the ceiling. Gaze may try to look up to that hand. Good. Nice alignment, nice long spines. Big breath in. On the exhale, we're going to unwind. Take your time. Re-square the pelvis if you tilted it. Now just one more with the breath. So on the inhale, go back to the left side. Reaching the arm up, big twist, maybe gazing up. Exhale, slowly release the twist. Lots of control and awareness. One more time to the right, big breath in. And then exhale, let's bring that hand back down. So we should be back in neutral. Fire up those legs, one hand at a time to our hips, pull the belly in. On the inhale, lift up through the crown of the head. Big breath in. Extend those arms out, palms up. Try to inhale even more. Reach it up to the ceiling. Bring those palms to touch and exhale, hands to heart. Heel toe or just step our feet in. Good. Once we have our balance and our blood pressure back, today I'm going to add another little movement for our standing leg balance. You don't need a yoga block. If you have a heavier block, it could be a little bit more fun because it's more challenging. If you have a heavy book or even if you have a hand weight, you could use that. I'm going to use my foam little block. And again, this is just optional. It does definitely challenge our brain and our balance, but it can be quite fun. So we'll practice a pose that some of us are probably really comfortable with, and that's Shavasana or tree pose, but then we're going to add this element of movement. So try to start with the inside of the feet and legs touching, compact the hips. Pull up through the pelvic floor, lower abdominals. Anchor the tailbone to the ground. Let the heart be open and the head relaxed. And then we'll just hold our prop right in front of our heart. Float the right heel up at the hip, open the knee out. Toes may stay down. Sole of the foot to inner ankle or calf. You may reach down and place your foot to your inner thigh. Avoid placing that foot on the standing knee, so it's either below or above it. Pelvis, hips should be level, so try not to sink into one or the other. Pull everything up. So maybe we just want to cultivate some stillness in our practice today and hold here. If you want the additional challenge of movement, take the block, bring it down in front of the body. Hold on to it with your right hand. And as you inhale, we're going to draw a big circle with both arms. If you have a heavier object, when you get overhead, don't drop it on your head or your toes. Switch hands overhead and lower back down. Exhale. 2 more times. If we dance out of it, we just come back to it. Switch the block. Inhale, big stretch. Switch. Exhale. Changes everything, and if you have a heavier object, it's really going to challenge your equilibrium. 1 more round. Good. Next time that block comes around, bring it back up to the heart center. Point the knee forward, just do what you can. Try to extend through that foot, and then lower down, and take a pause. If that threw our balance off a little bit today, good. Sometimes we get into our comfort zone and it's important to challenge ourselves and keep our brains working. Squeeze and lift up through those lower locks. Lift the heart, relax the head. Hover the left heel. At the hip, open the knee out. Try to find symmetry here from this side and your first side, placing the foot in the same spot if you can. Keep your pelvis level. Don't sink into either hip. Lift up. And then you can try to find some stillness. Or we'll try to add our movement the best we can. Lower the block down. We'll go the opposite direction this time. So keep the block in the left hand. Inhale, big circle, up and around. Good. Switch hands. Exhale, lower it down. Switch. Inhale, out and up. Switch. Exhale. Good. I love the effort. We're going to make one more big circle. Next time that block comes down and around, float it back up in front of the heart. Pointing the knee forward, try to extend the leg out, down, and pause here for a moment. Take the palms of the hands, if you have a yoga block, and just gently press into it. You should feel that spread the shoulder blades behind the back. Next inhale, reach the block all the way up to the ceiling. Try to keep the palms pressing in, pull in through that low belly. You may try to draw the head of the arm bones back and slightly gaze upwards. On the exhale, bring the block in your right hand, lower the arms back, down and around, or your prop, and take it behind the body. Now I'm holding on to the medium setting. You could try to hold on to the low setting that's a little odd of a grip, or the larger setting. And if you're unable to get the block to reach into both hands, don't worry about it. You can rest your hands on your hips instead. And so I'm trying to hold onto the block, squeeze my shoulder blades together. I'm not hyperextending my low back, but I am giving a big stretch from my chest to my shoulders. The neck should be relaxed. Big breath in. And on the exhale, just relax. Drop your arms out. You can noodle them a little bit. We'll set the block or a prop off to the side. Shake your arms out. All right, let's come back to the top of our yoga mats as we moved around, and we'll all move back into Tadasana, standing nice and tall. Feet parallel, unlock those knees, pull those low ribs in, anchor the upper buttock down to the ground, float those ears on top of the shoulders. Now turn those palms out, inhale, breathing, big circle again. Last chance here, grow a little taller. Reach up, drishti up for a slight back bend. Micro bend those knees, pull the belly in, hinge from the hips, and sweep the arms back, around, and down into whatever your forward fold looks like today. So you might be pausing halfway. You might be going into Uttanasana, our intense stretch pose. We'll take another breath or two here. Stretching out the backs of the legs, the neck, and the shoulders. Next inhale, let's do visit a halfway lift. So hands to shins, thighs are higher. Open the heart by pulling the shoulder blades together. Try to flatten out that back. Good. Exhale, bend those knees, plant those hands. Let's take a big step back. If you can remember, you always step back with the same foot. Try to switch which foot you step back with. Into plank position today. So hands under the shoulders, strong core. You may come down to your knees at any time. You may hold here or join me for a vinyasa. So on the exhale, lowering all the way down through Chaturanga Dandasana onto the belly. Chin forward, flatten out the feet. Inhaling Bhujangasana, squeezing the back and the buttocks to lift the heart and the head. Exhaling, coming all the way back down, kissing the mat, toes and tailbone tucked under, elbows squeezed in nice and tight. Inhale, push back up to kneeling or full plank. Exhale, lead with the navel, finding a resting pose, either Adho Lukasvanasana, downward facing dog, tabletop, or even a child's pose. Wherever we are, one more big breath. My down dog people, inhale, heels up, stretch out those feet and those toes. Exhale, lower to the knees, point the toes. We'll try to sit back in our more traditional child's pose with the knees together. The hands sweeping back to the feet and the head bowing down towards the ground. We may also take a hold of an opposite wrist across our low back, then allowing the weight of the arms to drop back down to the ground. One more breath here. And then bring the hands under the shoulders, tuck the chin, and let's inhale and round it up. Restacking the vertebra, one vertebra at a time. Once we've come into a seated position, let's rock over to either hip and bring our feet forward. So from here, we'll do one seated pose. Let's see, I think I want this. So you'll want a little lift underneath your sit bones. We're gonna move into Baddha Konasana, a seated pose to help open up the hips. But I would sit up on something so that we can keep our nice tall spine. Once we're in our seated position on our support, if the knees need additional support, take blocks there as well. We'll draw the soles of the feet together. Ideally getting the 3 anatomical points to touch, so the mound of the big toes, mound of the pinky toes, and the centers of the heels. Hands behind the hips for a moment. You can lift up the pelvis and try to tilt it even more forward so that we're trying to get more to the front of the sit bones and not being pulled back out of alignment. So the natural curves of our spine should still be moving up the back. And then we move our hands to our feet or ankles, draw the shoulder blades back, and the elbows tuck in nice to the body. Feel the energy of pulling the thigh bones down to the hip sockets. Don't necessarily put pressure on those thigh bones. Gravity will traction out that area. If you happen to be very flexible and your knees easily open towards the ground, that's great. We'll add an additional variation to go deeper for those of us that want it. So some of us might stay right here today. Just lengthening through the crown, drawing thigh bones into hip sockets and allowing gravity to open up those hips. If we want a little bit more, we'll inch our fingertips forward. Now the heart should lead, so there's no rounding and collapsing. The length of the front of the spine should stay as long as the back of the spine. So I don't have any mobility there. I'm just gonna inch slightly forward. But those of you that are walking your hands forward, if you are able to come back into more of a forward fold, you can take a prop underneath the forehead if it's close. You can reach your fingertips forward and get back into that shoulder girdle. The rest of us will just breathe comfortably where we are. Good. Let the exhale, try to let go of tension and tightness you might find in there today. Let's try one more breath. Use this last exhale to release and relax those muscles. And then we'll float the head up. Inhale, walk back. If you're more forward, take your time coming back up. You want to sit up nice and tall. Hands come underneath the thighs. Step those feet wider than the hips. Weight comes back onto the fingertips and give your knees a little windshield wiping action here. All right, so it's time to come off of our seat and come onto our back. Now, I do want us to have either a yoga block, a firm cushion, or a firmly folded blanket ready for us. So we'll do a supported Satju Bandasan or bridge pose today to help open the front of the hips now. If you don't have the yoga block or a firm cushion, you can take your throw blanket I kind of already have mine in this little bit of a square, and I'm going to fold it in thirds. So I'll fold it over a third and then do that again so that I have a firmly folded blanket that looks like this. It's not going to be as high up as the yoga block, but it's still going to give me a little bit of lift. It's better than using a really soft pillow. So the soft pillow is kind of weeble wobbly, and you might tend to sink into one hip or the other, and that can be unstable for our SI joints. So firmly folded blanket, a cushion of some sort, or your yoga block, and just have it next to your mat so it's waiting for us. We will bring ourselves around, have space behind the body to come down. You're welcome to come to one side and walk yourself down. If you'd like to do the slow roll down that I do in my class, just a little bit of articulation for the back and strengthening. Soles of the feet touch the ground. The knees are falling open wider than the hips. Fingertips reach forward. I'm squeezing my belly in as tight as I can. And I'm trying to roll through the whole back. So the sacrum, the lumbar, the thoracic, not the cervical because that should be arched up off the ground, but then the back of the head. So whenever we get down to the ground, we're going to need to adjust our ponytails, our clothing. Let's stretch everything out for a moment. So straighten the legs out, arms overhead. Point and flex the feet, spread the fingers. Let that low back arch away from the ground slightly. On the exhale, float your arms down, tuck your shoulders under, walk the feet in, and then hug those knees in and give that low back a little massage side to side. Now we'll drop our feet flat to the floor. There is a few inches between the feet, so they should be hips width apart. If you had two blocks, you could take one block on its low steady between its inner thighs and then use the other block underneath the low back, but not necessary. To first move into this pose, we want to tighten up the glutes and the hamstring muscles, so the back of the body. Press down through the feet, the backs of the arms, and squeeze to lift the hips up. And even if you know that you do take it up a little higher with the yoga block, I always recommend starting on the lowest setting first. So whatever prop we're using, it's got to be underneath the low back, not in the lumbar spine. We're not arching over the block. It's supporting the weight and the heaviness of our hips and the sacrum, so right above the crease of our buttocks. A little bit of flesh hanging off the front end as normal. Make sure your weight is into the shoulders. You should be able to slide your hand underneath the neck so your neck is in its neutral position. If you don't have a block between your inner thighs, just avoid the knees falling open. Put a little bit of energy to that, pointing the knees towards the toes. Now I'm going to go through several variations here. If you have a favorite that you know you like to do already, just please do it. So this is a nice inversion. We're taking pressure off of our internal organs, lifting our heart a little higher than the head. So this brings our energy and blood flow towards the thyroid, parathyroid. This pose is great for our endocrine system. Also redirects that up towards the brainstem and our sensory organs, our eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. And it's a nice way to counter all the sitting we do and help release tension in the hips. So if we want a little bit more here, I usually start with one leg at a time. You may slide your right heel straight forward to the front of the mat. Keep some energy in that foot so the toes are pointing up to the ceiling, knee to toes. And you're getting a stretch here through the right hip flexor. If that's comfortable, try the other leg. Step the right foot in, stretch the left heel out. And if that is comfortable, you may extend both feet up. Purna Setu Bandasan, full bridge pose. Feet should be pointing up towards the ceiling. We don't want to collapse in the knees, so the legs do have to do a little bit of work, but we're getting this nice opening through the hip flexors. Arms can remain down beside the body, or we may also cactus our arms, bending the elbows out from the shoulders, allowing the backs of the hands to flop to the floor, palms up. Try to breathe with the abdomen as much as possible. You can even close the eyes for a few moments here and just allow the body to enjoy this pose and receive the benefits. If it ever becomes too much, just step your feet back in, or you can slowly release the pose as needed. We'll take one more breath in the pose. And then step those feet in if they're extended. Pause for a moment. Bring those upper arm bones back down beside the body. Make sure you're engaged through the shoulders. Squeeze the hamstrings, the glutes, tighten up the back to lift up just enough to slide our prop out from underneath us. We're gonna sink that low back all the way to the ground. Pause. Rock the knees side to side a couple times. And then draw those knees back into the body as much as we can to give that back another stretch. And we'll move into a supine twist here to also continue to help to release the muscles of the back. So bring the knees together, parallel the feet, reach the arms out into a T from the shoulders. Exhale, breathing, lower the legs over to the right-hand side of our mat. You may take additional support under the thighs or the feet as needed. Place the right hand on top of the left thigh for a more intense twist. Sink the left shoulder into the ground. Turn the head to the left. Again, closing the eyes, slowing the breathing down as we come towards the end of our practice. Relax the face, the throat, the shoulders. Next inhale, let the head and the knees float back up through center. Some of us might feel like we need to do a little scooch at our backside before we go to the other side, so do so. Knees together, feet parallel. Exhale, knees to the left. Add support as needed. Left hand to top thigh, adding a little bit deeper twist. Right shoulder down, head turns to the right. Slow, deep breaths in and out through the nose. Every exhale, an opportunity to let go of stress and tension, wringing everything out. And then that next inhale floats the head and the knees back up to center. If you need to do a little scooch or rearranging to realign, do so. Hug those knees back in, or take a happy baby if you like, soles of the feet to the ceiling. Giving those hips one last stretch, reaching for the toes or the soles of the feet. Feel like you need to do any last little movement before final relaxation, feel free to do so. And then we'll start to get ourselves set up for Shavasana, or our supported restorative pose. So we haven't been here yet today, So we might want to add some additional props, pillows underneath the knees, support along the spine, the back of the head, or even some additional layers on top of our body. So if you have socks around you, a blanket that you can add to your Shavasana to keep the body warm as it relaxes, go ahead and do so. So I'll give us all just a minute to figure out where we want to be. So I'll do just a little bit more guided relaxation, give us several moments of some peace and quiet, and then use the singing bowl to bring us out to finish our practice together today. Once we're in position, make sure that our surroundings are comfortable, clothing is loose. Find the very back center of the skull. Poof the cheeks up with air, yawn, stick out the tongue, whatever we need to do to get the jaw to relax. Adjust the shoulder blades. Allow those arm bones to roll open away from the body slightly, palms up, fingertips curled up naturally. Let the low back sink into the ground. Relax the belly completely. Notice a subtle rise and fall of the belly with the breath. Feel the weight of the legs. Let the leg bones roll open, the feet flop open. Letting a quality of heaviness come over the whole body. Smoothing the skin of the forehead, the brow. Soften the eyebrow center. Let the eyes sink into the sockets. Relax the outer ears. Relax the inner ear. With the lips softly touching, release the tongue and lower jaw to gravity. Relax the throat. Soften the heart and the chest. Let the whole body relax. The breath is easy, quiet, and calm. And if the mind becomes distracted, gently bring it back to this peaceful breath, giving ourselves permission to let go, to relax, and to simply be and breathe. Slowly start to come back to the natural rhythm of the breath. And we'll start to breathe some life back into the body, waking up the toes, give the fingertips a little wiggle. Rock the head side to side, roll the wrists and the ankles. Stretching the arms back overhead for a moment, pointing, flexing the feet, stretching the body out side to side. And then we'll float those arms down, step the feet in, and hug the knees in as much as we can to give that back a little stretch and a little massage. And then bring the right arm beside the head. We'll roll onto our right side in Supine Balasana, sleeping baby pose. Pausing for a moment, resting the head on the arm and the left hand to the floor in front of the heart. And then let's keep the eyes soft or closed, press into the ground. Bringing the body back up, where we will revisit any comfortable seated position. You want to find those sit bones, sitting up as tall as we possibly can. And then being mindful of our surroundings, we'll float those arms out beside the body. Turning the palms up to the ceiling. Let's take another big breath in together. Reaching those arms all the way up and gathering up whatever it is we need to get us through the day. And then turn those palms out, big breath out, floating the arms all the way back down to the ground and letting go of all that other junk that we don't need for the rest of our day. One more time, turn those palms up, big breath in, reach it up. Bring the palms to touch. Exhale, lower the hands to the heart center, humbly bowing our head down to our heart to honor and thank ourselves, our bodies, each other, and remembering to be grateful and thankful to everyone who's still making it possible for us to come together and support each other in our yoga practice. Join me in chanting the Om Shanti Mantra if you like, taking a deep breath in to begin. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. And I thank you all, as usual, for all of your support, for your practice. I'm so happy to see more faces this morning. We were definitely thinking about everybody Wednesday night and hoping everybody was safe and comfortable. So thank you. And if you have any